So this is Senior Master Coordinator Bob Ferguson, and it's my distinct pleasure tonight to have one of my colleagues, one of my wonderful partners in Shaklee, who's been with us for many, many years, Ann Zickefoose, who really has an extraordinary story to tell us. And so I asked Ann to come on to Shaklee Talks and tell people what life was like before Shaklee and what life is like now. And let's hold forth. So Ann, delightful to have you with me tonight.
Thanks, Bob. It's my pleasure to be here. So it's been a long time since I've shared my story in a public venue. If it does sound familiar, I did share it, I don't know, years ago, a decade ago, maybe, and my name at that time was Ann Lemansky. So if it sounds familiar, but you think, oh, I don't recognize that name, that might be why. So I have been blessed to have Shaklee in my life for over 2 decades. And I'm mid-50s right now and came to it as what I consider a young woman, but I was so very sick at that time. So I'm gonna kind of start at my beginning and share with you a little bit about how I came to be so ill, and what that looked like for me, and what it looked like to find some answers to those health challenges. So I was raised in a very health conscious family. Ate a lot of really good food. My folks were health nuts before it was cool to be a health nut. Okay, I ate soy burgers back when they were gross, and we didn't supplement our diet on a regular basis, but we did eat very well. Ate a lot of homegrown produce, no junk food. My eating patterns, changed a little bit as I got older and went to college and so forth. But I felt like I ate better than most of my peers, and nutritionally speaking, And so when I became so very ill, it was kind of a shocker. And I remember my sister saying, "That is so unfair. You had to eat all those gross foods and you still get sick like that." So, yeah. Anyway, I did have a bone marrow disease when I was a teenager, osteomyelitis, and the cause was never really determined, but I did receive intravenous antibiotic therapy for 6 weeks and long-term oral antibiotics after that. So you can imagine, what that did to my general health picture, right? In college, then I began to experience a lot of pain, inexplicable pain, chronic constipation, general fatigue, some loss of coordination, just a lot of kind of weird things. I didn't get an official diagnosis until I was a graduate student, and I woke one morning and my whole sensory signals were all messed up. So half of my body was numb, hot felt like cold, cold felt like pain. I had an MRI and a spinal tap, and I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So that was my first major autoimmune diagnosis. I embarked on a myriad of drug therapies for that. Fortunately, I now say fortunately, at that time, they didn't have the big immune system suppression drugs that they now typically use when someone's diagnosed with MS. So I took different drugs to try to combat symptoms, but a lot of times the side effects from the drugs were, as problematic as the symptoms, and I did not get a lot of relief. So it really wasn't a good time for me. And throughout those next few years after my diagnosis, I felt like I really deteriorated my health and my general well-being. The fatigue became really, really disabling, where you feel like you wrestled with a lion all night when you slept, and the lion won, repeatedly. And so that was really difficult. I had a lot of sensory issues, involuntary muscle activity, ongoing pain. I had some involvement with my eyes, with the MS, and it was pretty miserable. Mm-hmm. I was pretty sick. Wow. I had 2 children during that time. And after the second baby, I ended up in the hospital because I couldn't shake a simple sinus infection. That's how depleted I was. That's how compromised my health was in general. And I kept waiting for somebody somewhere to come to me with some answers. I thought my family doc or my neurologist would come up with something, some relief, something to help me, right? So I was really, really waiting for that. And that went on for about 7 years. And finally, as I look back on it now, this was really the first step to my health recovery. I decided that, you know, the old saying, if it's going to be, it has to be up to me, that kind of thing. I decided that I really needed to take responsibility for my own health. I had prayed many times for healing. I'm a woman of faith, and I had asked God, please, you know, please heal me. And I really felt like he was saying, look, you do your part and I'll do my part. And I do feel like he did some supernatural things for me in healing me. And he also invited me to step up and take responsibility for the things that I could take responsibility for. So I embarked on what I now call the doctor's circuit. I went back to all kinds of specialists. I went to another neurologist. I went to an orthopedist. I went to my family doc. I went to, you know, just a psychiatrist. I went to all kinds of different doctors trying to get a handle of why I was so miserable. And, you know, I tried some other drug therapies. I tried non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, just, you know, over-the-counter kinds of things. I'm looking at my notes here. I had an injection of cortisone. In addition to other things, I've been diagnosed with bursitis. So I had cortisone put in my hot bursa. I had also, as part of this doctor's circuit, I went to the Mayo Clinic, and there they diagnosed me with fibromyalgia. And I said, oh, is that instead of MS? And they said, no, that's in addition to the MS. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so tried, you know, various drug things there, and you know, I got some temporary relief with like some chiropractic care and some little things, but I was still pretty miserable, and just really struggling to get through each day. So one of the places I went in this doctor's circuit was to an allergy clinic, and I did test allergic to a whole host of things, different foods, molds, basically everything in my environment. And I knew I had hay fever throughout my life. I knew that was an issue. Oh, the other thing I was diagnosed with was TMJ, which is really significant because it's a very painful jaw disorder. And it's kind of important to my recovery story. So, but at the allergy clinic, I was introduced to Shackley because they recommended our hypoallergenic, non-toxic cleaning products to all their patients.
Wow. And where was that in?
That was in Fairfield.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Right here in Fairfield. Now you didn't have to go to Iowa City, right?
No, I didn't. That clinic's no longer there. But yeah, I was, I never liked to clean. That's not my thing. Right. And I didn't really realize how sick cleaning was making me, that it really aggravated everything. You know, I'm one of those people who always held their breath when they went down, you know, the aisle, the cleaning aisle at the store, even cleaning in the house, and I would be very careful to avoid the fumes. But I didn't put two and two together that, oh, you feel worse after you clean because, oh, you've exposed yourself to all these toxins, right? Just didn't, I don't know, it just didn't occur to me. So I did switch out my cleaning products. I was very happy with doing that, and I did feel like it did make a difference in my you know, well-being just after I cleaned, kind of thing. So from that introduction, I started to learn more about this company and their whole mission and their whole philosophy and their whole emphasis on health. That, of course, was very appealing to me. But the other thing that was incredibly appealing to me, because just the way my mind works, is their commitment to scientific integrity and that whole research arm, that whole, you know, real priority for that kind of thing. That really impressed me. That was important to me. And so I started to listen to other people's experiences. I started to watch these kinds of things that you're watching right now. I embarked on what we called at that time a tape program, where I could earn some free products from listening to these kinds of presentations. And I heard about other people whose health was improved from incorporating not only the cleaning products, but the supplements that Shackley makes. Now, as part of this doctor circuit, I had had blood work done. And all of my nutrient levels were normal, except for one trace mineral, selenium. And so I thought, okay, well, I for sure need our vitamin E complex because that, you know, has selenium in it. But I thought, oh, the other stuff, I don't know. And I was, you know, eating pretty well, and I had done some vitamins before. I had stood in the health food store as I was trying to find answers, right, to all my health issues. I stood in the health food store and I asked the clerk, which one of those vitamin C's on the shelf is the best? And she was a very sweet little lady. And she said to me, well, they're all good. Well, what else was she going to say? You know, she had all these different brands in her store, right? And so, you know, it just later, as I started to learn more about the differences in supplement qualities and so forth, I realized, you know, yeah, they were probably all about the same. And they were probably all decent, but they weren't, you know, they didn't have the proven bioavailability that Sheckley has. They didn't have the incredible scientific prowess that this brand has. And so I came into the supplement approach slowly, but I figured, what do I have to lose? You know, Sheckley offered a money-back guarantee. I had the support of my upline. Bob's mother, Kay, was alive at that time, and I got to know her and meet her. And I've always referred to her as my Sheckley grandma. She was a very dear encourager. So I started on a supplement program. Now, I didn't feel great right away. You know, I wish now that I kept a journal of my progress as I began that program, but mine was a slow but steady progress, I would say. And Bob can attest to the change in my ability to, over the years, to even function. Really, he could see that. He could.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Because I was there, I was with you, and didn't at that time yet live in Fairfield, but I was here very often.
Yeah.
And Anne would come in, and such a sweet gal, and it just felt like she almost wasn't quite there. And yeah, exactly. And we'd have nutrition dinners and everything, and Anne would have a little tiny bit of food on her plate. And then over a period of years, it was a couple of years that I all of a sudden saw a tremendous difference. All of a sudden, Anne was, you know, when I can eat a lot, you know, I'm blessed with a very fast metabolism, but I was noticing that there wasn't a lot of difference between the food that I put on my plate and the food that Anne put on her plate.
Come on, Bob.
Yeah. No, it was striking, actually. And then my final kind of memory of Anne's kind of, you know, regaining her health is the last kid bounding up the stairs to the office where I'm sitting right now, was the old Shackley office, bounding up the stairs with a baby in one hand, baby paraphernalia in the other, just striding up the stairs, healthy as anything. And I said, boy, this is really, really worthwhile. This is really something. So yeah, I saw it happening.
Share a picture. So after I started on Shackley, you know, I didn't think I would ever be able to go through another pregnancy, but they were so hard on me. Not so much the pregnancy, but the childbirth and delivery.
Yeah.
I had 2 children at the time I was introduced to Shackley. These are my other 2 children when they were babies. They're now adults, young adults. But these are the ones in the car seat that Bob saw me bounding up the stairs.
Yes, the little one, yeah.
Yeah, so I have 4 boys. I am so eternally grateful for that. I'm going to start crying.
That's okay.
Yeah. So you can see what a difference Sheckley made in my life. And I do want to share with you, you know, that when my progress, you know, being slower than I would have liked at the beginning, the first thing that I really noticed was something that was missing, actually. But it took me several days to realize it. So in conjunction with the TMJ, I had a constant throbbing in my ears and down my jaw all the time. And I coped with that by blocking it out as best I could. I'd been to the doctor numerous times. There was no infection. There was nothing they could do. And so one night I laid my head down on the pillow and the throbbing started, and I thought, that's the first time it's throbbed in days. Yeah, and I hadn't even realized it because I had become so accustomed to just ignoring it as best I could. Mm-hmm. And so when it was gone, I didn't even realize it. And then when it came back, it's like, oh, wow, that's getting better. And, you know, I have fine-tuned, messed with, adjusted my supplement program over the years. And that is I have to maintain a pretty high level of alfalfa to keep that TMJ at bay. You know, my body responds beautifully to the nutritional support that I give it now. It's an ongoing kind of fine tuning process, but I do know that, you know, all those things that we're all should do all the time. So avoid stress, you know, get enough sleep, exercise, drink enough water, feed your body with nutrition, high level nutrition. A lot of people can get away with doing that kind of sort of, or, you know, part of the time. My body doesn't allow me to do that. I really have to pay attention to it all the time. It's not that I don't eat sugar, I do, you know, but I'm careful about it. I pay attention to the amounts kind of thing. And so if I put all of that, keep all of that in perspective, you know, and my spirituality and you know, all those components, it makes a difference in what I can do and, you know, how I live. So, oh, the other thing I had was irritable bowel syndrome. I'm trying, these are coming back to me, you know, all these different things.
So, forgot you had, right?
Yeah, all these different diagnoses. And I still, you know, I have to pay attention to what I'm doing and how I'm living to keep all of that managed, I guess I would say. And it's been an ongoing process. You know, I believe that our bodies are miraculous creations of an almighty creator. And so I feel like it's my responsibility and my privilege to treat my body with respect and to support it as best I can in all those different ways so that I can be my best healthy version. And that's really my goal. You know, it's been now decades, and sometimes I'll have, you know, reminders that I was diagnosed with those different disorders, but it's nothing, as Bob attested to, nothing like it was. And yeah, I really do miraculously, marvelously well, as long as I behave myself, you know, as long as I do all those things that I need to do. So just some other specific thoughts that I wanted to share with you. I am so grateful for our healthy fast foods. You know, those nutrient dense life shakes, life bars. I'm also hypoglycemic, so I have to be very careful about my protein levels. And that has been so helpful to me. I carry a snack bar in my purse all the time, and you know, whip it out whenever I need it. Vivix, I think, has been, when I was able to add that into the program, it became available, very important. So you heard all the different things I was diagnosed with, right? My CRP level, when I go for physicals, I ask them to evaluate that the last couple times. That's, of course, a biomarker of inflammation, your CRP level in the body. If you look at the landmark study test results, you know that people who, you know, use the vitalizer strips even had a very much lower CRP levels.
That's C-reactive protein, right? Yeah.
Thank you. C-reactive protein. Yes, yes. Mm-hmm. My CRP level, negligible. It's not even on the chart. All those diagnoses, all those inflammatory conditions. That's just amazing to me. It's absolutely amazing to me. And I'm just so thankful. I did incorporate MindWorks as well when it became available. I felt like I was starting to get adult onset ADD. I didn't know what it was, but that has made a huge difference for me in just helping me get my old brain back. And you know, I had lesions on my brain, so I don't know for sure what's what, you know, but I do know that it helps me. My vitamin D level responds very beautifully to, you know, extra of our vitamin D3. Just little tidbits that I thought I'd pass along. When I went through perimenopause, that life change, menopause balance complex was such a godsend. I had really terrible hot flashes, so that was a huge relief. You know, I use a full spectrum of our supplements and all of our products, you know, all of our nutritional products, and everything else too. You know, I don't use any toxic, you know, skincare or anything. Everything is as pure and as safe and as Shackley as I can make it. And I've just been so thankful to have it, and what it's done for me. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell. Any questions, Bob?
I think one of the things that we need to be careful about, both for legal reasons and other reasons, is that, nutritional products are not, I have a disease, I take something, and the disease goes away. It's much, much more like disease being darkness in the room. There isn't enough light in the body. The body is not performing well.
Right.
And you just turn the light on and the darkness goes away.
Yeah.
And I think that's the proper way to think about this. So rather than thinking about this as, well, I've got this thing, this syndrome, this diagnosis, whatever, what can I do about this? Obviously, you want to do something about it because it hurts. It messes up your life and everything. The way to think about it is, how can I feed my body so that my body actually responds in a way that creates health, rather than all of these situations that are in many cases, in most cases, perhaps not all, but in most cases, really an operating system problem. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, when you're diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder, and I never say that I have these diseases, I say that I've been diagnosed with them.
Right. Good. Yeah.
The common traditional medical approach is to suppress the immune system, because autoimmune means my immune system is attacking my own tissue. And I saw all the evidence of it, on the MRI. It was there. It was happening. But it didn't make any intuitive sense to me to depress my immune system further. So sometimes, I received encouragement, not to support my immune system because it was too active. It was attacking my own tissue. Well, it just, on an intuitive level, it just didn't make sense to me to suppress it, to depress it, to squelch it. I thought, no. I want to support my immune system so it can function properly the way God created it to function, the right way, for my body. That's how I want to go about it. And so those are the choices that I made to support my own immune system, so I could do as much as it could do. Now, is it doing everything? No, it's not perfect. And, I was diagnosed with these disorders. I'm never going to say I'm cured, except for the supernatural cure that I think I did receive, but, not from my supplements. I'm not cured, but I feel as though I am supporting my body to do as much as it can for itself, the way it was designed to function.
And that I think is the bottom line. If we support our body, with our lifestyle choices, with our food choices, with our supplements, and with our exercise, and with our sleep, and with any kind of spiritual practice that we do, all of those things really make a circumstance where our body can function normally, and we can be happy, and we can have energy and all that. So, we got a few minutes left. So, as they say, then, Mrs. Zickefoose, what happened? What happened after that? You started to feel much better, and people started to notice. And so, what happened after that?
Yeah. Well, as I was learning all about all these people who were feeling so much better from incorporating Shakti products, I thought, oh, I've got a friend with PMS. Oh, another friend has migraines. Oh, I have to tell them. There's help. There's something out there. And so I just started naturally to share with people about whom I cared and tell them that there were things that have helped other people. And out of that grew a Shakti business. I sort of backed into it, but I'm so very grateful because I wanted to be at home with my children. I had a lot of other income potential at home, but I really, this was a really great fit with little kids because it's something you can do with them at your feet, and I didn't have to sequester myself into a quiet room to do office work where I didn't have little kids around. So it was just a real blessing. And I've been doing it now for decades. My kids are all grown, but
you were able to homeschool them. And
yes.
And as I recall, if I can tell your story, because I've told it many times, that, when you started, you're an attorney and you were doing work for your sister's accounting firm. And so you had a good professional situation and you worked part-time from your home. But as I understand, you had to hire a babysitter to keep the kids so that you could be off in a room doing that work at home. And I would imagine that, in the beginning, maybe who knows, I don't know exactly how many hours you spent building your Shackley business, but you had 4 kids and homeschooled them. And so it wasn't even remotely anything like a full-time job.
Oh, no.
You've had a part-time, in some ways part-time job that has, as I understand, given as much money and perhaps more than what you were earning doing something that, and you were sick and you had to have your kids watched, and now it's just a completely different situation. So I think that's part of really celebrating what Shackley has to offer, isn't it?
Sure, of course. Yeah, I'm so very grateful for that.
That's great. Well, okay, so if anyone is on the conference line and they want to touch *6 and ask a question, they can do that. Anyone on Zoom here can go in and go out over and unmute your microphone. If you've got a, if you've got a question or a thought, please just, any questions?
Yes,
and I'm
thank
sure.
you. Can I ask Anne a question?
Of course, yes, here we go.
Thank you for a great phone call tonight, all this wonderful information. You mentioned that you took quite a bit of alfalfa, so I'm curious what you mean by that. They're going about 20, 30, 60?
Yeah, 20 to 30. Yeah.
Okay, daily?
Yes.
Okay, did you maintain that all these years, or you were able to go down to less as time went on?
I currently take 20 a day. So 30 was kind of my peak, and then I was able to dial it back to 20. I have tried to decrease that because I'm always, trying to respond to what my body's telling me. But if I decrease it beyond that, this TMJ pain comes back even now. So.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, great. One other question. Did you guys have any difficulty walking during your whole story? Or it wasn't like that? It was more like a sensory type of thing?
Yeah, most of my involvement was sensory. I did not have any gross motor impairment. However, it's not that I'm not, I don't know. I was going to say sometimes some clumsiness, but I'm not really, I don't think of myself as that way. But maybe there might have been some walking issues. Well, let me tell you this. This house in which I sit was built to be handicap accessible because it was believed that I would be in a wheelchair.
Hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
And I remember your story. I heard this in the old days on a cassette tape, maybe like 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Do you remember you made the tape that you made?
I do remember.
Like a follow-up to that. This is live. Then I just got a copy of your tape. And you said that in the tape that you just made a house and you had built it handicap wheelchair accessible. Wow.
Yeah.
And you still doing well all these years.
Yeah, thank you for remembering that.
Well, and radiant, when
Yes,
when you
I remember that story. I remember the whole story. And it's unbelievable because sometimes people do well. You think, is it just temporary? Was it just like anyway diseases come and go? But now you're telling the story. Probably it's a good 10, 12 years later, and to hear that you're still doing so well is fantastic.
Thank you so much.
You're a real role model.
Oh, that's very
Can I ask you how much protein you drink a day? What do you do a day? 2 servings?
No, I only have 1 serving of protein a day. I have at different times done more than that. So 1 serving of Life Shake. Most days I'll have a snack bar at least, 2. Yeah, so I still don't eat a whole lot. But yeah, and I could do more protein for sure. I'm sure I could. I wouldn't discourage anybody from doing more if they were so inclined, is my point.
Right.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Sure.
Great. So anyone else on the conference line or anyone on Zoom who wants to ask a question of Anne, this is your golden opportunity.
Hi, Bob. This is Linda. I have one question.
Hey, Linda.
Anne, on your allergies, how did you determine which exactly allergies you were allergic to and how much the alfalfa you needed to add to it?
I did an allergy testing program called provocation neutralization.
Okay.
So they shot all the allergens into my system and to see how I would react, and then they would try to neutralize it with a certain level of that same allergen. I don't totally understand it, but I gave myself injections for months. That was the treatment regimen. And I don't know, you know, I can't tell you what specific supplement took care of those, but I'm sure the alfalfa was a big part of it. But just building up my immune system, you know, an allergic reaction is really the immune system getting all excited about something that it should be able to just say, oh, you know, just pass it through or deal with it however we should be able to deal with that food source if it's a food source. So as my immune system became stronger, they just weren't triggers for me any longer.
Those things kind of just vanish. Yeah.
Does that answer your question, Linda?
Yes, you did. Thank you so much. Alfalfa is it.
And alfalfa, and also all of, I think the lesson again in this, Linda, and everyone else, is that we want to take a full spectrum of nutrients.
Yeah.
We can look. Shaklee makes a lot of different products for a lot of different purposes, and we can do some research. We can read the catalog. We can experiment. That's what my mother always said. Just experiment, because no one knows your body like you. Yeah. And this is not medicine where you have a prescribed dose. It's feeding your body nutrients that your body needs. And you'll be able to tell when you hit the right levels, when you feel better. You know, that it's, and so again, the orientation is not to disease. The orientation is toward building health.
Yeah. Our cells will self-serve. That's a description I heard from years ago. There was an MD who was Shaklee friendly who used that language, and I thought that's so wise. Our cells will take what they need. They will self-serve as long as we pour in the smorgasbord of nutrients for them from which to choose.
And that's exactly what Dr. Shaklee said. You know, when people were talking about what's good for this, good for that, he said, the one thing I know is how much I don't know. Use the products, just use the products and see what happens. Yeah. And you know, that I think is our safe way for ourselves and for others. And Shaklee makes very responsible products. And so, you know, it's a really phenomenal tool. It's just such an amazing tool. And you're such a remarkable example of Shaklee vitality. And it's a lot of fun to work with you. Ann and I were at Cambridge Investment Strategies talking about the Fairfield Community Weight Loss Program. We had quite a few people interested, and then we're working with someone inside the company, and we're going to have a meeting, next week, right? Yeah. So it's all very exciting. It's exciting to pass this goodness around. It's exciting to pass around a solution, you know, for issues that really bedevil people and create the kind of very constrained life you are living. And we as Shaklee distributors, we as Shaklee advocates have the opportunity to say, hey, try Life and Protein, try Vitalizer and Protein, try Vital E and Protein, try Vital E. You know, even 2 Vital E a day, you know, can be quite astounding in terms of what it will do for people's health. Yeah. Great. Okay. Well, thank you all very much for being part of this. We'll close up now, but it's always a joy to work with Ann. And thank you all for being part of our evening. And we will see you later on.
Thanks, everybody, for being here.
Okay.